So please subscribe if you like what you see. I was on a business trip to the USA and I went to a company called Brown Manufacturing. And while I was there, the sales manager, international sales manager, was called away to the phone. And then he came back and he said, I have Mr. Rothschilds on the phone. So the first thing I said, who's he? He said, oh, he owns this company amongst, about 50 other companies that he owns worldwide. I said, oh, okay, fair enough. He said, when we finished here, he said, we'll go down to the boardroom and I'll introduce you to him. I said, that's fine. So we did our business and discussed the products that I was looking at, and went down to the boardroom, and I walked in, it's this slim guy, beautifully dressed. There was a nice bar there as well, because I'm accustomed to the bar, as you can see. And anyway, I said, well, look, I'll tell you what, the best thing is, here's your way to break the ice here. I said, look, how about I call you Herb and you call me Keith? And his hand shot out. He said, you know what? He said, I like you already. I said, good on you, Herb. Herb, isn't it? And he laughed. So we had a drink and a bit of a chat. And he said, yes, I was driving past here today, and he said, I saw the big Australian flag out the front, so I knew there was an Aussie here. And he said, I like Aussies. He said, you've got a good sense of humour and good to do business with. I said, well, you got that right. So with that, he said, you're free this evening? I said, well, I am actually. And he said, well, seeing you're all the way out here in Cicero, he said, how about I call the wife and we can go out to the house and have a drink and meet the wife, and we can make a booking and we'll go and have dinner. I said, sounds all right to me. So we walk out the front of the building, and this big Cadillac arrives, similar to the one that I was taken to the factory in, and we jump in the back and we're sailing down the freeway, and he said to me, I haven't heard of Offset Newspapers, your company. I said, oh, you really? He said, oh, we're pretty big. He said, I've heard of the Sydney Morning Herald, which is like, New York Times. And he said, really? I said, yes. Oh, we're bigger than them. He said, how many of these graphic arts cameras are you looking at? I said, oh, about 6. We were saving up to buy one. Anyway, we arrived at his house. It was right on the shores of Lake Michigan. Anyway, the big steel gates opened, and up the driveway we went, and chauffeur pulled up, and we hopped out, and here's the doorman, I guess you'd call him. He's standing there, and he opened the doors, and so Herb said, well, follow me, Keith. He said, I'm just going to drop this little parcel down at the garage. I said, okay. So I followed him around the back of the house, and he pressed a button or something, and all of a sudden 12 garage doors open. And the first thing I see is this big blue Lamborghini. I've gone, my God, I've only seen pictures of it. I'm absolutely flabbergasted, because here in Australia, they're around about $500,000. So he put the parcel on the garage shelf there, and he turned around to me, and I said, nice car, Herb. I said, do you use it much? He said, no, it's not mine. He said, it's a wife's car. Oh, really? He said, yeah, she goes shopping in it. He said, I don't know where she puts all the things she buys, though. Goes shopping in it, really, okay. So up to the house we go and meet his wife, very stunning looking woman, and had a bit of a laugh and a bit of a chat. She said, look, I'm just going to go up and freshen up, and I'll join you guys down at the bar. I said, righto. So we walk in, and took me for a walk around, took me a tour around the house, and showed me his trophy room with all these animals that he's shot all over the world, bloody deer and bloody God knows what there wasn't there, crocodiles and so on. And then we went to the games room, had a look there, then we went to the home theatre room, it only seated about 12. And I said, oh, very impressive. So we go into the bar room. Well, it was a bar like nothing like mine, but very impressive. So with that, I sat down in the chairs, and he said, yeah, he said, they're Louis the Fourth or something like that. I said, oh yeah, he said, I picked them up in France. Is that right? He said, yeah, he said, about 20 grand a piece. Really? So I quietly lifted my arms off the side, my arms off the side arms, and with that, the waiter arrived, and he poured us a couple of drinks, and we're eating away and drinking away, and it was really good, and so on. So then his son arrived. He'd just been to judo lessons or something, and he's all dressed in his outfit. And he said, yeah, so my son, he's just won the Illinois State judo team. So I shook his hand, and then I pulled it away just in case he was going to trick me. And his wife arrived, and we had a bit of a chat. And he said, I'm driving. I said, okay. So we jumped in the Cadillac, one of his Cadillacs, and down we went, and so down to this restaurant. Anyway, when we get there, the manager's arrived and the red carpet's out. And the first thing Herb said to the manager, he said, it was the manager's night off, by the way. He said to the manager, he says, this is Keith, he said, he's come all the way from Australia. He's my international guest. Well, I thought the guy was going to kiss his shoes, but apparently not. So he said to me, he said, well, anything happens unusual in this restaurant, he said, just don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean? He said, you know, when you're rich, he said, people act very funny. And I haven't been to this restaurant for quite some time. And he said, so if anything strange happens, people look at you or gawk or point or something. Don't worry about it. So we walked into the restaurant, and we're standing up a little bit higher than where all the tables and chairs were, up where all the booths were, where we were. And we walked in, and the whole place stopped. They all stopped eating, and they all started looking at Herb. I says, my God. So with that, we got a private booth, and they brought the curtains around, gave us a drink, brought the curtains around. And I was in full flight, you know, had them all laughing and carrying on and what have you. And she's ordering wine by the bottle, and yeah. So anyway, later on, the violin players came round after we'd finished our lobster. And so on, and the three of us departed in the Cadillac quite drunk, very drunk. So he said, I'll drop you back to Chicago. I said, okay, fine. So with that, we get in the car, away we go. And we're going through these turnpikes. You're supposed to like pull up and pay the guy and drive through. Not Herb, straight through. I go, oh, there goes one, there goes another one. Anyway, so we get all the way down to my hotel, and he drops me off, and Tom had this idea that we were, for some reason, that we were like the Sydney Morning Herald, which is like the New York Times. So anyway, out of the blue, about 6 months after I arrived home, I get a phone call. And you wouldn't know, it's Herb Rothschilds on the phone. And the printing press is in the background, belting along, making a hell of a lot of noise. And he said, I got through to him, I could just hear him, and he said, is that Keith? I said, yes. He says, Herb Rothschilds. I said, oh, Herb. He said, what's all that noise in the background? I said, oh, I'm just walking past newspaper press number 6. We only actually had one, but anyway. So he said, I'm in Sydney. He said, do you reckon we can meet up and have a drink? He said, I'm staying down at the Presidential Square at the Hilton Hotel. I said, oh, well, not really. I said, I'm pretty busy. I said, I've got to go to Melbourne and Sydney today, and I'll be away for about 12 hours. Oh, I'll catch up next trip. I said, okay, fine. So that was it. So anyway, about 9 months later, I had to go, 6 months later or so, I had to go to New Zealand to a newspaper conference. So while I was there, I walked in, I saw a friend of mine. There was a lot of guys around the bar, all at the conference, and he said, Father's looking for you. Now, Father was a bloke called Tom Sutherland. And he was the CEO of a very large, probably the largest printing supply business in Australia. And he said, he's looking for you. He says something about Rothschilds and a didgeridoo. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, he's not too happy. Oh, okay. So I said, I'll just stand over there behind the door. So I'm standing over behind the door. Next minute the door opens and here's Father, or Tom as it is. And he said to me, I've been looking for you. I said, why have you been looking for me? And he said, well, he said, you know when you were in the US last time? I said, yeah. And he said, you went to Brown Manufacturing? I said, yes. He said, who we represent here in Australia? I said, yes. He said, you told Mr. Herb Rothschilds that you were larger than the Sydney Morning Herald. I said, I did. He said, furthermore, he wanted to know where his didgeridoo was. I said, what didgeridoo? He said, that's what I thought. He said, apparently in your drunken stupor, apparently when you all went out for the night, you promised you'd send him a didgeridoo for his trophy room. I said, really? He said, you know how much it cost me to send a courier all the way across Sydney to La Perouse to the Aboriginal settlement out there, pay for a didgeridoo, bring it back to the factory, wrap it all up, he said, and then take it to the airport and send it to Chicago. I said, no idea at all. He said, it's $750. He said, so, and I'm not real happy about this. And I said, wow. I said, well, I didn't remember it. You know, I said, that's how it goes. He said, but you love me anyway, don't you? And he said, yes, that's correct, I do. I said, okay, fine. So he put his arm around me, went over to the bar and we had a drink. And that's what happened with the didgeridoo. I didn't send it, but Uncle Tom did. Bye for now.